Right now on Indianapolis This Week, the future of a proposed soccer stadium in downtown Indianapolis.
It is assured that it will not fall on the taxpayers' back. This is not an ask for a public handout.
We talk one-on-one with the president of the Indy 11, plus an Indiana lawmaker looking to the United Kingdom to fight poverty in our state and country. And in the Sunday Spotlight, the battle against obesity and the hometown guy hoping to get your attention.
Well, that's part of the problem, right? You have the misinformed guiding the uninformed.
From RTD6, the Indy Channel, this is Indianapolis This Week with Rafael Sanchez.
Thank you for joining us for Indianapolis This Week. We kick off this week by talking soccer and a potential new home for the Indy 11. The Indiana House this week gave its approval to the plan for a new 18,000-seat stadium for the Indy 11, a stadium that could also host more than 30 other events per year. The potential price tag, $82 million. Now, the plan to pay for it calls for using an estimated $5 million per year in sales and ticket taxes from stadium events, plus from a new hotel to be built nearby. But the plan still needs approval from the Senate and the signature of Governor Mike Pence, and neither one is guaranteed. After that House vote, I talked one-on-one with team president Peter Wilt. Peter, thank you for joining us on the program. The governor has not committed to the project, and the Senate Pro Tem says it's not a priority. What do you make of those statements?
Well, it is a priority for the citizens of Indiana, the hundreds of thousands of supporters for this project. It includes our fan base, which is youth soccer families, young adults, the tens of thousands of people that attended every one of our home games. Was sold out, 10,000 plus last year. New Americans, first and second generation immigrants, and actually a broader range of supporters throughout the state. It's an important issue to them, and we're confident when it comes to the Senate, they'll take a serious look at it.
$82 million project, a possible 4 different sites you're looking at. Why now? Why not continue to use IUPUI?
Well, there's a number of reasons. I mean, certainly there's a need. There's a demand for capacity. There's missing events. There's important events that are bypassing Indiana right now to go to Columbus, Ohio, Kansas City, Houston, Portland. I mean, there are almost 24 of these soccer stadiums existing throughout the country. And important matches and events are passing Indiana, and they'll continue to do so until the stadium is built. Also, we want to create jobs. This stadium will create thousands of part-time, high-paid part-time jobs for the construction of the stadium, and hundreds of jobs for the ongoing support of the stadium. And certainly we need jobs sooner than later.
You heard from some of your critics who point to that Toyota park in suburban Illinois, saying, look, you folks are behind a project. It's now in deficit. I think the number uses $11.5 million. Should we really be confident on this project? What do you say to those critics?
I think that points to the importance of having this stadium downtown. When you build a stadium out 12 miles away from a downtown, that would be like building the stadium in Avon. And I think everyone understands it needs to be downtown so it can be an economic engine that will support the local economy. You know, much like the other venues have done so well in town. And that's where the successful ones have been. So if you look at that and the track record of support, these stadiums, soccer stadiums throughout the country are selling out 20,000 plus every game.
What guarantees can you make? Because I think the reason the critics brought up that project was to say, maybe we shouldn't trust this guy. Maybe we shouldn't trust this organization. That seemed to be sort of the inference. What do you tell those critics and those folks that may be trying to make that suggestion? Because my taking from you, you're saying that's just not true.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's really important about this project is that it is assured that it will not fall on the taxpayers' back. This is not an ask for a public handout. In fact, the KSM study, the experts have done the study on the stadium, and it shows that the revenues from the stadium captured, the 10% ticket tax, the sales and income taxes captured from the stadium will be more than enough to pay for the stadium. And the owner of the team, Ursal Özdemir, has backed that up by saying that this new hotel he's looking to develop he'll allow that to have those taxes captured as a backup. And those backup taxes should double the coverage on this bill. So those assurances are there, and the state bill has no moral obligation whatsoever to pay taxes to be on the hook for the stadium.
You know, people love their sports in Indianapolis. You know that. Yeah. The Colts, the Indians, the Pacers. But the flip side of this, of course, is that folks are always concerned about, will the public get stuck with a bill? So can you guarantee the public in any capacity that the public who wants to support the Indy 11, and by the way, people love the Indy 11, right, won't get stuck with an unwanted bill or a project that'll fail or that will become needy in the future? Right.
I think that's important. I mean, two things. You have to look at the numbers that KSM has projected to show where the revenue streams are expected to come from to pay for this, and there has to be a confidence level in that. And then secondly, you need to look at the backstop on it, on where that's going to happen if there are shortfalls, because we all know there's been public subsidies for stadiums before. Sure. That have been structured not like this one, that have fallen short and have fallen on the public's back. This is not structured like that. This is structured so that there are insurances in place that it will not fall on the public's shoulders.
Peter Wilt, thank you so much. Best of luck to the Indy 11. A great season coming up, right? New players.
We're excited about the year. New players. We've kept some of the good ones and brought in some better ones to go along with them. We're very confident we'll compete for a championship this year.
Good luck on the season. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rafael. My pleasure.
Thank you. So what do you think? Do you support the plan to build a new soccer stadium in downtown Indianapolis? We're asking that question right now on the RTV6 Facebook page. You can log on and cast your vote right now. We turn now to another developing story, the plan for Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu to address a joint session of Congress this Tuesday. Netanyahu wants to express his concern about Iran and the nuclear arms race. Some Democrats are not attending, including Indiana's own Andre Carson. They're upset the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, made that invitation without the input from the White House, and that the visit comes during an election season in Israel and during negotiations with Iran over that country's nuclear program. We spoke to Indiana's 9th District Congressman Todd Young about Netanyahu's planned speech.
I think it's essential that the leader of Israel come and speak before the People's House and let it be known the circumstances surrounding not only Israel's security, but the security of the broader region and how it might impact the United States and the Western world. There have been efforts to try and get the administration to engage in a more direct way with Congress about its negotiations with Iran. We certainly wish the administration the best, because it's in the best interest of every American to see that this comes to a successful conclusion and that peace is restored. Since that information flow has been less than optimal, we do need to hear from the leader. In ideal circumstances, I wish consultations between the administration and Congress could have been more robust, including with the invitation, I would say.
Congressman Young sits on the powerful House Ways and Means Committee, and this year he's hoping Congress and the administration will agree on tax reforms and new trade agreements. Young is also looking to the British as a way to model an anti-poverty initiative.
They've allowed private philanthropic capital to be brought into the civil society they have over there to scale up interventions that are helping out those most at risk in society. So they're addressing chronic homelessness, the issue of recidivism, infant mortality, which is a problem right here in Indiana. And if we can bring in private money to scale up these solutions, you end up saving government a lot of money at every level of government. So they're actually able to pay back the investors to scale up these solutions out of future government savings. And then the philanthropists can then spend that money to help more people. So we create this virtuous cycle by adopting this model. And I have drafted bipartisan legislation called the Social Impact Partnership Act, which I hope will become law. I think this is another area ripe for bipartisan cooperation.
Will there be appetite for this so often when Republicans talk about having the private sector help? There's this privatization becomes an ugly term, right? So how are we hoping to soften that language so it's not seen as private industry profiting from the poor?
Sure. I think this is the rare area where everyone accepts that the current government programs do benefit many people, many at-risk and low-income people, but they're certainly not optimal. They're not moving the needle to the extent that I think we ought to be in the 21st century. So if certain outcomes agreed upon in advance are not met that measurably improve the circumstances of the targeted population you're trying to help, the investors don't get paid back. So by definition, you're helping out those folks. The philanthropists get paid back, and they in turn can help more people. So this, there's very little, I think, to disagree with in this whole concept, and that's why I think it's going to continue to receive bipartisan support.
Well, Congressman, keep us up to date as that piece of legislation goes through the halls of Congress. We thank you for your time. Please come back again.
Thanks so much.
Thank
It's good to be with you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Coming up, we move from Congress to the State House. The General Assembly reaches the halfway point. Talk successes and failures thus far with our political insiders. Next on Indianapolis This Week. Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week as we welcome in our political insiders, Mary Beth Schneider, former State House reporter for the Indianapolis Star. Hello. Pete Seed, who served in the press office for President George W. Bush, and Adam Kirsch, former executive director of the Marion County Democratic Party. We are now at the midway point of the legislature, Mary Beth.
We are at halftime, and the score is what?
Oh, well, you know, if we're going to use a sports analogy, it's all about the fourth quarter. So, well, we can score this at the end of the session. But what's interesting to me is this was supposed to be the education session. And thus far, it's been only about booze and gambling. Those are the two dominant issues in the legislature thus far. Of course, the booze issue is gone. Sunday sales is dead, and we still have gambling. But hopefully the budget, hopefully education will retake the conversation here in the next 2 months.
Well, education's been kind of, I mean, we're looking at really steep cuts for some of the urban districts, which you guys are probably upset about.
And found out late this week that IPS is losing $14 million more than anybody anticipated. And we're going too fast in some education reform, some education movements, and we need to keep money where it's the schools that need it the most.
How about Glenda Ritz? Is she a winner or a loser so far in this session?
Well, I think she's always a loser. She hasn't done a very good job in the...
Don't hold back.
Yeah, no, well, hey,
Listen.
I'm not going to hold back. You know, she hasn't done...
There's no filter.
I don't think she's done a good job as superintendent of public instruction. Of course, what would you expect me to say?
But for the bills that basically strip her of some of her authority in the State Board of Education, some of those have advanced, some are languishing. So is she going to get out of this, or that just...
Well, Pete's problem is she's not always a loser. She's an electoral winner. She won the election, and now Republicans are trying to change the rules midway through the game, going back to his halfway point.
Right, because a single one of those 1.3 million people had any idea that she was going to chair the Board of Education.
But Pete,
you have to be realistic about
I knew that.
But Pete, there were some Republicans in the House who were concerned that we were changing. When we say we, I'm talking about the electorate. They were changing the game midstream. They would have preferred to have seen in the next election cycle to have changed the rules.
And that's fair, and that's part of the conversation, right? The legislature is where we debate issues. We're having that conversation. So that's why I say the fourth quarter is so important. Let's see what actually comes out of the legislature and hits the governor's desk before we say it's a done deal.
Do the Democrats have any voice there at all with the low numbers that you have?
It's certainly hard. You know, certainly Republicans can manhandle what they want through. They killed an HPV vaccination bill this year for reasons that nobody quite understands. So Democrats have an uphill climb to accomplish their legislative goals, but we're doing what we can.
And if we want to talk about electoral votes, the people of Indiana gave Republicans supermajorities. So let's be realistic when we're saying
Republican-drawn maps
legislation.
gave Republican supermajorities.
We did win.
What will Democrats see as success? I mean, obviously you have low numbers, but is there any bill, anything you could say as a Democrat? You know, we had a voice in this. We helped shape this in some capacity.
I think certainly Democrats are focused primarily on working people and the middle class, and what we can do to increase wages. The common construction wage recall will cost $246 million in wages in Indiana.
And for people who don't know what you're talking about, right now we have little committees that set the wage on construction projects for public works. That's going to go away if the legislature...
If the Republicans in the legislature
the House has voted to repeal it, but in the Senate, they're saying, listen, it's taxpayer protection. There's some concern that this may not go all the way through.
Yeah, and to be fair, you say the Republicans get their way. 24 Republicans voted against it. So saying that this is a Republican bill just because an R is next to the name of the sponsor doesn't make a lot of sense. But the other side of this, too, is, you know, I'm hearing people say, oh, it's been around for 80 years, you know. Well, that doesn't make it good policy, just like saying you have tenure doesn't make you a good teacher. So we have to be realistic. This could be taxpayer protection. The other side, people could perceive it to be decreasing wages.
Well, Republicans even smart to get into this year if they want to be about talking about improving wages in Indiana. Why even have a bill that cuts anybody's wages?
Again, you're having a conversation. And it's passed, passed the House.
Is it a good conversation to have?
I think it is.
Even optically, even with the optics of it all?
Well, the optics are rarely in the favor of Republicans, let's be honest. Perception sometimes becomes a reality, and people are going to make of it what they want to make of it. But it may not get through the Senate, and I think it's a worthy conversation. But to your point, it wasn't on anyone's legislative agenda.
No.
And so it did surprise a lot of people that it's now a dominant issue.
30 seconds left. Just one word answer. Are you guys upset that no alcohol on Sundays? I mean...
I am.
Besides communion at your local Catholic church.
Yes.
And I'm going to go to church here in a moment, so... were you surprised? No?
Somewhat surprised, but I think it exposed the sausage making of the legislature. That's what it did.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to church. The conversation between our insiders continues on Twitter as always. Follow Mary Beth, Adam, Pete, Lara, and Abdul, and join the debate right now and throughout the week. Next, an effort to make Hoosier families healthier. The hometown guy on a wellness crusade that he believes contains a plan that people can actually embrace. Welcome back to Indianapolis this week. Hoosiers are not healthy, and it's impacting our well-being and our pocketbooks. The latest numbers from the State Department of Health show that we are 9th most obese state in the country. It cost us $3.5 billion in medical-related costs. We are also the 6th worst in physical activity, and we rank 41st in general health. So in our Sunday Spotlight, here's Robert Ferguson. He's a nationally recognized expert in wellness. The Anderson native is a member of the Presidential Task Force on Obesity for the National Medical Association. We began our discussion about the 3 things that can lead to you having a healthy life.
Motivation is a big factor, and oftentimes we put more of our focus on the nutrition component or the fitness component and forget about the mindset component. And it really is a 3-legged stool, because if one of those areas is not getting the attention that it needs, that stool is going to drop over.
So give me that stool. What's on that stool? Because I know that I've sat on that stool, and often the stool has either tipped over or because I've broken the stool. So what does that stool look like?
Well, you know, part of it is you're looking at nutrition, right? Because oftentimes you'll have someone say, you know, exercise is the king.
Right.
And if you focus on the fitness, you know, that's where all the energy needs to go to. And then you have the other group of people who will say that nutrition is king, and we need to put all of our focus there, and everybody gets exercise. But the reality is that I look at the 3-legged stool in 3 parts. You have 33% going to nutrition. So nutrition is very important, and you want to approach nutrition in a way where it meets you where you are, and we can talk about that. And then you have fitness, that's 33%, because activity and movement plays a big role. And then mindset is 33%. So that's 99% in total. And then I always share with people that you want to take that one lingering percent, and wherever you feel you need the most energy or focus on for you, then that's where you want to put that 1%. So some people it's nutrition, some people it's fitness, some people it's like, how do I stay motivated and stay engaged?
Yeah, some of the new food labels have made it somewhat easier to understand what not to eat and what to eat with sodium and high fats. But when you talk about nutrition, how do you get me on that right path? Because so often we hear about, well, just eat a lot of lettuce and eat a lot of spinach, and that'll be it, right? Eat fruits and vegetables, and that is the key to the kingdom.
Well, that's part of the problem, right? You have the misinformed guiding the uninformed. And so my whole thing is, let's meet people where they are and show them how to make it work. Because for you, if you have resources to go to Whole Foods or to a grocery store that offers more fruits and vegetables and you have that access, great. But what about the people who are going to the food bank? You know, what about the people who don't have any food in the house and they're faced with maybe only fast food? How do you get them to optimize their situation? And so what I do is show people how to make it work no matter where you are. And I think if we could all just look at that and approach weight loss and better health that way, then everyone is in a place where they can upgrade.
You are going around the country educating people about health, wellness. You know, in our state here of Indiana, you're a hometown boy from Anderson. Obesity is a big issue. In our remaining minutes, what do you say to those parents who are truly dealing with the serious issue of obesity and are really trying to find ways to make sure that their children are set off in that right path?
Well, here's the secret. There's a big part of the solution, and that is you don't skirt around the parents to help the kids, right? you go directly to the parents, because stats tell us that if one parent in the household is overweight or obese, there's a 40% likelihood that kid or the children will be overweight or obese as adults. And if both parents are overweight or obese, that's an 80% chance that that kid growing up will have those same challenges. So go to the parents, lead by example, and just show people how to make the most of their situation. And that's where we're going to create that reversal of childhood obesity and get Indiana out of the top 10. We're number 9 as far as the most obese.
Robert Ferguson, you have to come back. You've been an excellent guest.
I'd love to come back.
Please do so. Thank you so much. And welcome home to Indiana.
Yeah, of course.
Welcome back home. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, going round and round again in Carmel, the plans for new construction in that city. Next, Indianapolis This Week. Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. More roundabouts appear to be coming to the city of Carmel. Mayor Jim Brainerd announced a massive infrastructure plan this week targeting the city's east side. Now, part of that plan, new roundabouts, including one at the very busy intersection of 96th and Keystone. After that announcement, we sat down with Brainerd, who is seeking his 6th term as mayor of one of the fastest growing cities in our state. We talked about the campaign, the city's future, the debt, and whether tax increases will be necessary in the future. Our candid conversation next Sunday at 8:30 right here on Indianapolis This Week. Thank you for watching, and stay with RTV6 and our RTV6 app as we continue to track the snow throughout the day. We'll see you next week right here on RTV6. Have a great day.